All right, back with another power rankings tier video. A lot of intrigue as this was kind of a crazy week. I feel going to be a lot of movement. I'm going to take multiple teams out of the Super Bowl contender tier. So let's just get into it. Starting off with Cincinnati, who I think I got to put in maybe playoffs at this point. I mean, listen, this Jake Browning thing is for real at this point. And it's one of those things where they had enough talent around them. I felt like, okay, they could still do maybe some things, but I was not expecting this. I was not expecting them to be able to legitimately look like a good football team right now. Don't know if they get in. Got some work to do, but I mean, could they get in? Absolutely. Huge win here against the Colts, but it really blew them out. Giants haven't played yet. Issue of doing these on Mondays is with, 4 teams I'm not going to get to, but still, plucky but bad, I believe is where I had them last week. Keep them there. The Niners are still Super Bowl contenders. I mentioned this on the podcast, but Brock Purdy ended up with 13.6 yards per attempt, and we're all like, yeah, not his best day. Like, it's insane what these Niners are doing right now. I think they're the Super Bowl favorites. Obviously in the top tier. The Saints are mid. And you know what? Let's just, to be clear, let's get all the NFC South right away. Just get them in the mid with the exception of the Panthers. We know where they're going. NFC South is mid. That's just what it is. Saints, hey, beat the Panthers. Didn't look good while doing it, but the Panthers are so bad, they still won by, a bunch of points. The Buccaneers beat the Falcons. That was a great win. There's still some issues here for Tampa Bay. And Atlanta, probably on a per-play basis, has been the best team out of those three, but the Desmond Ridder mistakes and just mistakes in general for Atlanta have been huge. So, Tampa Bay makes the splash plays as well. That's kind of what they rely on. So it's, if Tampa Bay doesn't win a lot, but when they do win, get splash plays. Atlanta wins a lot, but when they don't, they give up splash plays. Kind of, was a bad combination there. I don't know. One of those 3 teams is going to win the division and probably be one and done. I hope it's the team that I root for. That's how I view this. Moving on, the Bears. I don't know. I've been putting them in plucky but bad. They got to be up to at least the mid tier at this point. I don't think I can put them that much higher, but these linebackers they matter, and they mattered against the Lions. I still don't know how much of it is just, it might just be the Lions are kind of a good matchup for Chicago, but I mean, they're 5-8 currently. You can't help but think, man, that like Broncos lost and that Lions, the first loss, they don't blow those games. This could be a team that's legitimately above 500 and in a playoff spot. Like, as crazy as it sounds, that is how it works. Again, that's football. You can do that with a bunch of teams. Every team that's fighting for a playoff spot has tough losses. But I mean, yeah, that's tough right now. The Packers, I don't remember if I put them in maybe playoffs or for sure playoffs. However, last week, I don't know, for sure playoffs. However, feels right though. Hopefully, they won't prove me wrong and lose to the Giants this week. But yeah, the Cardinals, I think, are still plucky but bad. Kyler makes them interesting, but I still don't think they're a lot of talent here. The Ravens, got to put them in Super Bowl contenders. Huge win, and maybe even bigger than the win, the Chiefs' loss gives them a great shot at the 1 seed. Them and Miami have a real chance at that 1 seed because the Chiefs have been losing so much. So, again, will they get the 1 seed? If they win out, yes. The question is just, that's hard to do. But, great stuff here for Baltimore right now. Next up is the Dallas Cowboys, who are also Super Bowl contenders. I mean, to me, San Francisco is clearly the best team in the NFC right now. That's just how I view it, especially when they crushed the Cowboys. But the Cowboys are clearly the second best team, and I don't know, maybe it could go differently if they play each other again. I still think I would take the 49ers in that game, but for Dallas, hey, if you get a bad 49ers game, they absolutely could win the Super Bowl this year. Or maybe if they just, have a good day against San Francisco, they could win the Super Bowl. Definitely, some good stuff there. Let's go to the Bills, so I don't know if they get into the playoffs. I'm going to put them in the for sure playoffs, however, tier, in the sense of I think they're a for sure playoff caliber team. Again, it's less about if I actually think you're going to make the playoffs and more about just what kind of team are you right now. And I think the Bills are for sure a playoff caliber team. Don't know if they're going to get there because there still are some issues with this roster and they have a brutal schedule. But yes, Josh Allen is really good. yes, I know that the turnovers are the turnovers, but he's been actually very good at keep protecting the football. He's just been unlucky this year, and he will kind of have one boneheaded throw a game, it seems like. But most quarterbacks have that, right? Like that, like his turnover worthy play percentage is top 10 in football right now. Like he's been the reason they're winning. He's been incredible. They're still too Josh Allen dependent, and because of that, I'm not sure if they're going to make the playoffs, but it's certainly possible now after a big win against Kansas City. The Chargers are going to be just bad without Herbert. They're just bad. The Broncos are. I'm still going to put them in maybe playoffs. I think that they're good. There's a lot of things I like, and there's not really many things I dislike for this team, but I still feel like I don't know how much I trust. Like, where are they great at, I guess, is the question with the Broncos. And their defense has been very good these past, month. After that horrible first month, it has completely turned it around and been an actively good defense. And it's a solid offense. So, like, that'll get you to the playoffs. But I don't know if they're, like, a superstar team. And they still have some work to do to get into the playoffs. So, yeah. The Lions, I still think are for sure playoffs. However, the defense has not looked good, and it's concerning. I mean, quite frankly, their defense stinks, so that's really concerning. And if Jared Goff has a bad day, this team just can't win, and that's the issue. That being said, Jared Goff doesn't have that many bad days, and there's still enough offensive weapons that this is still a team that should easily make it to the postseason. The Kansas City Chiefs. I mentioned I'm going to take a couple of teams out of the Super Bowl contender tier, and the Chiefs are one of them. I mean, listen, I know this is going to sound crazy. It's the Chiefs. They have to be in the Super Bowl contender tier. I've mentioned, every loss, I've been like, they're the Chiefs. You can't drop them out of contender tier. I don't know, man. I mean, the receiving core is a legitimate issue. It just is. It's a legitimate issue. And when I think about Super Bowl contenders, I don't think teams that have a chance at winning the Super Bowl. A lot of teams have a chance at winning the Super Bowl. I think about teams that I feel comfortable with them winning the Super Bowl right now, and I don't feel comfortable with Kansas City. Receiving core has been a real issue. Defense is very good. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in football. We all know it. But if you don't have guys to throw it to, you're going to have to potentially now not have the 1 seed. You might have to beat Miami and Baltimore on a way to the Super Bowl. Can they do it? Of course they can do it, but it's going to be really tough. So I'm going to drop them down a tier, and we'll see how that goes. And for Philadelphia, the team that lost to Kansas City in the Super Bowl, same thing. I mean, this secondary has not played well this season. The offense has all of a sudden gone cold. I mean, how can you look at them and say they're in the same tier as San Francisco and Baltimore and Dallas right now? Like, I feel the same thing with Kansas City. It's like, listen, maybe these two teams can absolutely get back there, and these two teams can be Super Bowl contenders. But if they're playing against one of the top 3 teams right now, and Miami's going to get there, we'll get to them in a second. But if you're playing one of the top 4 teams in football, I'm betting against you right now. I just am. So to me, they are a tier below. They just are. Moving on, the Browns are a team I've had a really hard time getting a handle on. I think I'm going to put them still in the maybe playoffs tier. They look better with Flacco. They just do. And I don't know if that's just a coincidence. I don't know if that was just, Jaguars had a bad day over the middle, that kind of stuff. I really don't know. But they do look better with Flacco. I do think that he's been the best quarterback for them this season. I think he's been better than Watson was. If you look at the entire sample size of Watson and the entire sample size of Flacco, which is small, again, maybe Flacco's going to fall off. It's possible. I think he'll probably be just an okay backup quarterback caliber guy. He did make a couple turnovers as well. You're going to get that with him. I sort of joked on the podcast about him forgetting the uniform color on the interception. That's kind of what it looked like. But, new to Browns. Not sure how this works. But, in all seriousness, their defense is great, and they can scheme stuff open. So if Flacco could just be okay, yeah, they could be a playoff team. The Texans, I think I got to draw. I mean, I don't know what the extent of the Stroud injury is. So I'm assuming Stroud is going to play, and everything will be fine. That's not a fair assumption, and totally it could go wrong. That's just my guess as of right now based on nothing. So if that happens, there may be playoffs. I had them in the for sure playoffs, but with some of the wide receiver injuries, I mean, that was the team, really. Their defense has played well, but their team was, great secondary good secondary, great receivers, great young quarterback. If they don't have the great receivers anymore and they, don't have the great young quarterback, they're probably just straight up not in the playoffs with that. So that's tough. Next up is the Colts, which I think I got to put in mid. That's kind of where they've been. They've been fighting for a playoff spot, but when I was most high on them, it was because Jonathan Taylor was back and they were looking really good. He gets injured again, and they need him. They just do, which eventually they will hopefully get him back, and that could help them out. Minshew's been fine. Defense been fine. I think it might just be a year where you're waiting for next year, but it would still be fun to make the playoffs, which is still possible, but I just don't know if they're that great of a team personally. The Rams are maybe playoffs. I mean, Kyle brought it up on the podcast, and it's fair that, like, at a certain point, they have to stop with the moral victories and just start getting some victories, which I still think they get in. I think they get in. I think they make the playoffs as the 7th seed. Stafford is, when he's on, and he's hot right now, when he's on, he's one of the best quarterbacks in football, right? His consistency has always been his issue, but he's great when he's great, and he's great right now. So definitely a team I wouldn't want to play in the playoffs because of Stafford and what he can do. And Cooper Kupp looking all the way back really helps out that team, but they got to get some wins together to get in. So yeah. The Dolphins are Super Bowl contenders. This offense, it's weird because, like, I think you could maybe argue they're not as complete as some of these other teams, but at the same time, their defense has been playing much better since Ramsey has gotten there. And again, you could make the argument that their offense is, I don't know, it's up there with any other offense. I mean, San Francisco's has been amazing, obviously. Dallas has been really good, obviously. So those might be the teams you look at. But in the AFC, their offense is the best in football, while the Ravens have the best defense in football. That's kind of what is interesting. Those are two teams, and both of them, they play each other. That could decide the 1 seed. It really could, and probably will decide the 1 seed. So really interesting, although, both of them have tough other games on the schedule. Baltimore plays San Francisco. Miami has a couple tough games as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. But the Vikings, man, I don't. So they won 3-0. I'll put them in mid. Mid feels fair for them. Like, this offense is just bad, but the defense has played great. I feel like I bring it up every week. Brian Flores deserves a ton of credit for taking a bad defense that lost a lot of pieces and has turned it into a good defense. I don't know how he did it, but incredible stuff. This offense is still terrible, though, but they might make the playoffs due to where they're currently at. The Patriots they're bad. I know they won. I don't care. They're a bad team. The Jets, with Zach Wilson, I'll put him in plucky but bad. I think that Zach Wilson actually played good, which just has to really frustrate you if you're a Jets fan, which is like, listen, I don't know if they were going to do anything this year anyway, but you turn one loss into a win. They would have maybe had a chance if they won the last 4 games. I'm not saying it would have happened, but why not give yourself a chance? Why go with Tim Boyle, who we know he's not good? I don't know. I didn't understand that logic at the time, and it looks way worse now. But, their defense is still amazing. So hopefully for next year for the Jets, with Aaron Rodgers healthy, things can go better. The Panthers are a bad team. Man, they're really bad. If there was a really bad tier, they'd be there. This was a brutal game and a brutal season for the Panthers. Tough there. The Steelers, with Mitchell Trubisky, they're in the plucky but bad tier. I'm sorry, but with Trubisky out there, he was terrible against the Patriots, and I get it. The Patriots can't do that to teams, but it was bad. This offense is really bad. It wasn't just Matt Canada's fault. It's a bad offense in general, and it's just kind of they're in a tough spot. They rely on stealing games. Well, you can only do that for so long. So yeah, not a huge believer in Pittsburgh. Seattle is, again, they actually looked okay. It shows how good San Francisco is that they lost by 12 and everyone's like, wow, moral victory. With Drew Lock in there, we're expecting much. They made it competitive. I think in terms of, again, it's another one of those, I don't know if they get in. They feel like a playoff caliber team, though. Assuming Geno Smith is healthy, which is not a fair assumption, but if Geno Smith is healthy, they still, to me, feel like a playoff caliber team that might not get in due to dropping some games earlier in the year that they should have won, similar to Buffalo. So, the Raiders, I don't know. There's enough there. I'll still keep them in the plucky tier. Max Crosby, very good. Their defense did just hold a team to 3 points. It was a great defensive showing. I know everyone's making fun of that game, but the defenses deserve a ton of credit. But yeah, this Aiden O'Connell might not be the guy, as we have learned. So I'll keep you out of the just bad tier, but not by much. The Titans, I think, are also in the plucky but bad tier. There's things to like about this roster, but we all know they're rebuilding at this point. Washington, I still think is just bad. I think they're a bad team. And then finally we have the Jaguars. Jaguars are interesting because I don't think I ever put them in Super Bowl contenders tier. I think I considered it. Maybe I did one week. I think last week, actually, if I'm remembering correctly, I was on the fence about Super Bowl contenders or not, and then decided not to. But yeah, I mean, with Lawrence banged up now, because then they would go on to lose on Monday night, and then Lawrence gets banged up. So maybe it was 2 weeks ago. I don't remember. Regardless, they're for sure playoffs, however. I mean, I still think they're going to get into the playoffs. I still think they're a playoff caliber team. The receiving core has started to show flashes of being better, but not like consistently. And now all of a sudden the coverage unit over the middle is giving up yards left and right. That can't be happening. I mean, that's your strength essentially. Not to mention Trevor Lawrence has, been banged up, and who knows how healthy, how long it'll take him to get healthy. So this is a team where I always say you need a great quarterback, great coverage unit, and great receivers. That's what you need to look at. And the Jaguars didn't have great receivers this season, and it's like, okay, maybe not the best receivers, but they make up for it because they're great in coverage, and Trevor Lawrence has been great this season. Well, now the coverage is starting to decline, and Lawrence is injured, and it's like, well, if that's not working, then you're really in trouble. But again, there is the potential for it to all get fixed, but it has to get fixed. So yeah, those are my thoughts on all of this. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.